As I was listening to Tom, I was saying there's a missing partner in this meeting, and that's Asia, because Asia is really driving these discussions in this summit. China is a big trade partner of Australia. We've got defense agreements with Australia. China has put tariffs, a small amount of tariffs on Australia because of their pro-Western policies. And so what the U.S. is looking to get out of this is, Australia is probably the second biggest producer of critical minerals, and it's looking for a deal now that China has put a ceiling or barred or limited the amount of critical materials coming to the U.S. We've got defense concerns about China's activities in the Asian Pacific Rim. Australia's right there. And so there's a lot to talk about, but Australia is in an interesting place because it does business with China and it does business with the U.S. And so there's a fine line for the prime minister to meet and to walk and to see if he can stay friends with two enemies.
Mr. Bolden, I was, reading today, of course, Australia, a major ally of the United States, but I was reading that there has been, maybe some unease in Australia because this is their first official meeting between the prime minister and President Trump since President Trump took office again. Why now?
Well, it's long overdue. I know the media in Australia has been critical of the prime minister, but this meeting's got to take place. There's another issue that's going to come up probably between these two leaders, and that's Palestine as Australia's recognition independent state, if you will. I don't think it'd be a big part because Trump is going to have to just live with these European countries as well as Australia recognizing Palestine. But it's a meeting that needs to happen because they both need each other in a geopolitical standpoint, economic standpoint, and quite frankly, if the beef between China and the U.S. continue, Australia's in the middle of that. It's their job, or if I would be my goal if I was a prime minister, to try do whatever I can to keep the peace between these two superpowers. It's a really unique position. We'll see how much they play it. But as my grandmother used to say, you can't stay in the middle of the road because you get run over. So they're going to have to manage those relationships along the way.
Yeah,
that is Australia.
How does the prime minister sort of keep the peace today? How does he, walk that fine line?
Yeah, well, from my standpoint, what he does is he gives the U.S. what he wants. He's a tough negotiator, right? He doesn't want to get into whether I'm picking China over the U.S. or vice versa, right? So let's talk about critical minerals. You're not getting them from China now. Now you're going to get them from us. Let's cut a deal. I need you to reduce your tariffs against us, Mr. President. Yes. And listen, we've got these alliances. We're going to build these nuclear submarines. And so I'm going to stay positive and talk about all the best parts of my relationship with you. U.S. And when it comes to China, Mr. President, don't ask me to choose China over America because that's not a realistic choice, but it's not a necessary choice, if you will. Let's stay positive. I'm never going to do anything to hurt you per se, but let's move forward because there's a lot of good in this relationship, including our joint relationship with the U.K.
I'll also ask, A. Scott, this meeting is happening, of course, with the backdrop of a government shutdown in D.C., right? I mean, what more needs to happen in those conversations that really sort of seem like they're just at a stalemate? What's it going to take to get any kind of movement on either side here?
Well, having mediated several cases in my 34 years as a litigator, the party, you got to get them to talking. I mean, it's a low bar. I know that the Republicans don't want to talk until later, but there's no real incentive for the Democrats to wait and talk later because you didn't talk to them before. And we're just talking about health care and Medicare, and that covers all Americans who are poor or the least, the lost, the left out. So you got to get them to, we just got to be willing to have a conversation. And based on media reports, it doesn't even seem like they're talking. In fact, from a leadership standpoint, Donald Trump is meeting with the Australian prime minister and what have you. And there are a lot of people, Democrats and Republicans and independents, who say, why isn't he meeting with the Dems? Why aren't the Republicans? Why isn't there a sense of urgency? We've seen shutdowns before, but both sides seem not only to be dug in, but they seem to not be pressed about getting the government open, hoping that the other side gets blamed, and whoever blinks first is how we get them to the table. That's not a good strategy for either the Democrats or the Republicans, and it's really not a good strategy for Americans.